This example is actually a two-part example, part A and part B. We're just going to take it one part at a time. The first part is we're going to construct a truth table for this compound statement. So we have this statement here, and what we need to do is we need to determine how many simple statements make up this compound statement here, and then we're going to write it symbolically and then build our truth table from there. So this compound statement reads, if you got a speeding ticket, then you must pay a fine and attend traffic class, or your insurance premiums will increase. So hopefully you can see we've got an if and a then right here, right? So we know that at least part of this is a conditional statement. So if you got a speeding ticket, so it looks like you got a speeding ticket right here. That's one of the simple statements, so I'm just going to label that as P. So far I've got if P, if you got a speeding ticket. And then of course here's our then. You must pay a fine. And then we have and. I've got an and right here. So you must pay a fine. So this is probably our second simple statement, Q. Then we've got an and, attend traffic class. So there's another simple statement. That'll be R. But right here we have this comma. This comma shows that there's probably a clause involved. You can see we have a comma certainly that separates the antecedent and the consequent for our if-then. So what commas do is they kind of point out where maybe parentheses might be. So I'm going to put in parentheses right here. So we have, if you got a speeding ticket, then you must pay a fine and attend traffic class. So you could see if P, then Q and R. Then as we continue on, we have this or. Or your insurance premiums will increase. So we've got yet another simple statement. We'll label it as S. So we've got 4 simple statements. So I'm going to write this right up here. If P, then Q and R, or S. So hopefully you can hear it as we read it symbolically, as we read it, as a statement too. If you got a speeding ticket, then you must pay a fine and attend traffic class. If P, then Q and R, or your insurance premiums will increase, or S. So now I'm just going to write out those simple statements right here. We have P, simple statement P. You got a speeding ticket. That's our simple statement right here. Here's Q. You must pay a fine. So that's our simple statement Q. Here's our simple statement R. You must attend traffic class. You must attend traffic class. And then finally, your insurance premiums will increase. So that's S. It's always good practice to go ahead and write out the simple statements. Go ahead and write them out, even though we could now see them up here. But it's always good because it helps get us focused as far as we progress. So now I'm going to build the truth table for if you got a speeding ticket, then you must pay a fine and attend traffic class, or your insurance premiums will increase. So that's for letter A. Letter B is then a follow-up, but in order to be able to answer the follow-up, we certainly have to build our truth table. So again, here I have my graph paper. It's always a good practice to maybe have one. It keeps everything nice and clear and organized, especially now that we have 4 simple statements that we're dealing with. So since we have 4 simple statements that we're dealing with, the number of rows is 2 to the 4th power, and 2 to the 4th power is 16 rows of truth values. And again, as always, I'm going to list all the standard values for my simple statements. P, Q, R, and S. And a way to be able to properly fill this out, don't forget there's a myriad of ways, especially now that we have 16. If we had another statement that was T, a 5th statement, there'd be 32 different rows. So you can quickly get confused as far as how to fill out these rows. So there must be a pattern that we stick with. And the pattern that this chapter uses is the first half of the truth values for the first simple statement are going to be true. So since there's 16, the first 8 are going to be true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the last half will be false. This way we can easily keep track of what we've already filled in. For the next simple statement, we do the same pattern except we cut it in half. Rather than the first 8 will be true, the first 4. Then the next 4 will be false. And then we continue that pattern. For the next simple statement, we continue the pattern, except we cut it in half again. So there, the first 2 will be true, and the next 2 will be false. And once again, we continue that pattern. That way we can easily fill out this truth table. It keeps everything nice and organized. And it's easy to follow. And then finally, we cut the pattern in half again, or in other words, the last simple statement here, we just wind up alternating. And if we did it correctly, then the first row of truth values should be all true. And then the last row of all truth values should be all false. But you must adhere to this type of pattern because it'll make things clearer and easier to assemble. And this is the pattern that we wind up using throughout the chapter. Now I don't have any negations here, so I don't have to worry about any negations. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do inside our parentheses first, and that's Q and R. So I'm going to build the truth values for that. And of course, this is a conjunction, that's and. For this statement to be true, Q must be true and R must be true. Here it is right here. So it's true. Here it is right here. And it's true. And then I just look for them in here. Here's true, true right here. Here's true and true right here. And I believe that's it. So then all the rest have to be false. I continue constructing. Now some students will ask, what do I do first? Do I do Q and R or S? Or do I do if P, then Q and R? Well, since a conditional statement in the hierarchy of connective, since a conditional statement is higher than a disjunction, we do the conditional statement first. So we first do if P, then Q and R. Obviously, you always do what's inside the parentheses first, and then build out from there. So for this clause to be false, the antecedent, which is P, has to be true, and the consequent, which is Q and R, has to be false. So what I do is I just go ahead and look for the falses here, and then see if the corresponding antecedent is true. So it's true, false, so this is false. Here's another one here. True, false, it's false. Don't forget, for a conditional statement, it goes in the direction of the arrow. Antecedent, consequent. Here's another false. See if here we have a true. We see if the antecedent is true. True, false, then it's false. True, false. True, false. True, false. And that won't occur any more times, so then the rest must be true. So then I just fill them in. So now we go ahead and we conclude with the last table. So since the last column, I should say, since the last column is going to be an or, this makes this an or statement. So I'm going to put in if P, then Q and R, or S. So since it's an or statement, this has to be false, and this has to be false for the entire compound statement to be false. So I look for falses here. Here's one. And then I look for falses. And that's true, so that doesn't work. But it's false here. And it's false here. So this is false. It's false here. But here it doesn't work. It's false here. And here's false. So this is false here. And we kind of go through it. Here we have one here and here. So it's false down here. And then that's it. So then everything else is true. And you can see how graph paper really keeps everything in order, nice and clean here. So this is the truth table for the compound statement. If you got a speeding ticket, then you must pay a fine and attend traffic class, or your insurance premiums will increase. So now question B then states, determine the truth value of the compound statement given. You got a speeding ticket, you did not pay a fine, you attended traffic class, and your premiums did not increase. So here is our P, Q, R, and S, our simple statements that we wrote out. So what we're looking for, you got a speeding ticket, you got a speeding ticket. Well, that's true. You did not pay a fine. Well, here it says you must pay a fine. So this is false. You attended traffic class. You must attend traffic class. That's true. And your premiums did not increase. Your insurance premiums will increase. So this is false. So we're looking for true, false, true, false. P is true, Q is false, R is true, and S is false. So we're looking for a true, false, true, false. Well, that occurs right here. True, false, true, false. P is true, Q is false, R is true, and F is false. So then what is the resulting truth value for our compound statement? It's right here. It's false.